You know, there is something going on when you are becoming from a boy into a man that the modern society has lost.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't have men. We have boys who are supposed to face the challenges as a man, but they are not equipped to do so.
The Way of Will John.
Guys, what's up? We are back today with BORNA KOTROMANIC, and she is a very multi-talented individual. We're going to get into a whole lot of stuff here. So I'm just going to read right from the beginning her Instagram bio. She is, of course, a public figure. We will talk about what she's done. But 𝗪𝗟𝗟, ageless, timeless, immortal. The quote here is, time cannot wither her, nor custom stale her infinite variety. BORNA, first off, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Yes. And WS, where's that quote come from? Because it's, you know.
It's by William Shakespeare in Antony and Cleopatra.
Okay.
That's how Antony described Cleopatra.
So that's then something you also, I don't know, let's say aspire to. But how can we describe you?
I think I've achieved that.
Okay, you're already there. You're already there. Very good. Very good. So
aspirations may lie in the above that where I say ageless, timeless, immortal. These are aspirations.
Okay. So then, you know, most people define themselves by their job. And we just talked about how that's not necessarily...
When someone does that to me, I quit their company.
Yeah, because that's such a small part. I don't pull my identity either for my job, obviously. I pull it from a whole lot. It's more of a search.
I don't even know what is my job.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I know education I have. I know what I primarily did in my life. But I don't know. I mean... I guess you have a job when you work from 8 to 4 or 8 hours a day, and then people want to define you by that. In my case, fortunately, I don't have that.
Have you ever had did you ever have a 9 to 5, we say in the US?
No,
never.
never.
I never had one either. And I don't think my personality would fit in one. And the reason I didn't was because I went to college, but I left college early. I left after a year and a half, and I went to start playing football. And I don't feel comfortable. I didn't feel comfortable in school even. Not because I didn't want to learn. As you can see, we've got books and I'm interested about learning. But they force what they want on you. If I have an interest, I want to build my interest. You make me, you know, build on my skills. And so that was hard for me. But you studied economics?
Yeah, I have a master in economics from the University of Zagreb, but later I pursued different interests. I also studied analytical psychology at the Jung Institute near Zurich. I studied philosophy at the Sorbonne in Paris. I took some courses in metaphysics with Harvard. I did fashion, a lot of fashion at Parsons, St. Martin's, Istituto Maragoni. So education was very important for me, but not in formal terms. I mean, I did economics because I knew I want to have freedom later. I always knew freedom was a very, very important word, always in my head. So when I chose economics, it was because I felt it will give me a broad base and broad choices once if I decide to pursue a career.
Right.
Actually, I thought at the time that I will go to, after graduation, that I will do a master in Italy, do some fashion, and do a master at Bocconi, this famous university in Milan. That was my girl, idea. But I married as soon as I graduated from the University of Economics, and basically my finances were sorted out.
Right.
And my idea of ideal woman that I wanted to be was not a woman who would pursue a career, because I thought that would take my energy. I would not age well. I would maybe, have to jeopardize my beauty. And then I really, really wanted to be a mom of the big family, because I grew up without parents.
Okay.
And for me, I had that void that that was my priority. to have a stable family life with many kids, and that was something I was like, if you maybe an actor want to get an Oscar and or a Nobel Prize or whatever, and you have to understand, and since a kid I always aspired high, like they would be, like I would think if I'm an actress I would get an Oscar. So I was also always thinking, is there any good-looking prince at the time in Europe? And I thought, no. I mean, it was the time of Prince Charles and this. And I said, no, they're all so ugly. I mean, who would marry Prince Charles with his ears and have kids that look like that? So
he does look kind of strange, guys. I mean, maybe he's a nice guy, but
saying you have to understand that like some limitations were removed early on from my psyche.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I really thought, I will live in a very different way from the people that lived around me. So I wanted abundance. I wanted certain lifestyles that in the time after post-war Yugoslavia was quite exotic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my life at the time was quite exotic,
different. Yeah. Tell me about that, though, more, because especially for this audience here, these are people who are going to be new to you entirely, right? This is in a whole American audience who doesn't know a whole lot. I mean, some of the older generation will know that, okay, Yugoslavia, they knew about... I mean, you know how horrible Americans are with geography.
Yes.
We are notorious about this, so they won't know necessarily Yugoslavia. Okay, that's now Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia, all these countries. Talk to me about how exotic these things were. Like you said, right after college, okay, things became settled. What was that like? What did you then feel? Because if you were so excited about finding freedom, when you finally got it, what did you do?
Basically, you are not, you think that some things will give you freedom, but I was very far from freedom,
You're naive.
Freedom is something that is within you.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how far from that I was. I was maybe more free and wild in having goals and ideas that an average person around me. But obviously, I knew that I had some potentials that will not really fit into some small role that other people would fit into. So my marriage to a successful, influential, rich person in the beginning was exciting in the ways that it enabled you to create life in terms of traveling and luxury and decorations and dressing up your kids the way you want. But it's only a short-term amusement. There was no freedom there. It was freedom from financial limitations.
Sure.
It was great freedom comparing with the girl who hardly ever flew by plane before then. And then all of a sudden I had the world in my palm, vacationing from Aspen to Saint-Tropez, anyway, whatever, wherever, the way I liked it. But in the end, in that marriage, that was my constraint. I mean, there were different constraints.
Right.
I had the freedom to choose the perfect vacation and to kids' clothes, but what else?
Yeah.
I was living in a golden cage, still with a very traditional man, with his idea that he has to keep me under check.
I see.
Because I am a bubble of energy, very hard to control. And the problem is that, and it's always like that, people like, and men like to get that energy, but then they get scared of it and they want to find a way of controlling a volcano. You can't, you can just be nice to it and maybe you will not get burned, but trying to contain you, and the more you try to contain me, the more I'm suffering, So it was very also, I always thought, I really deeply suffered as a human being in my marriage. And sometimes I thought, but my husband is not beating me. My husband is not bad in any kind of way that people can associate with my pain.
Right.
And yet I'm
restricted.
I'm restricted, and I'm not blossoming and growing. Even though I'm always being a mom and improving and studying nutrition and doing yoga and pursuing this or that. but still, you know, I'm not really living from other people's expectations.
Yeah.
And if you realize, I mean, when I appeared in the public, it was first in 2015 as a free person who was really ready to burn the perceptions of the public.
Yeah.
To do the contrary, when they come out and do a collection with a simple material that is used for a tablecloth, at the time when they think, oh, she's now this rich Croatian woman, should come with silks and taffeta and things like that.
Yeah.
I like to challenge people's perception of me because they really don't know me, and they can't perceive me, and the superficial way of their perception of me is hurting me. So I would rather serve you the deteriorating way of perceiving me, but that's my way of controlling you,
Right.
than letting you get away with getting an idea that is so remote from my true value and from my true being.
And because that's something that a lot of people deal with, but most people do not have the balls or guts to put themselves out there in that sort of situation,
Exactly,
obviously.
yes.
So many people are very happy to be in, and I've seen you speak just a little bit on some shows, you know, about the haters, let's, you know,
Yes.
say. And it's so easy to be a hater, which I can't understand, because obviously me too, with the size that we now have and all in our business and across YouTube and stuff, you'll always catch people saying, "Oh, Will, how come you're not better than Cristiano Ronaldo?" Or "How come this and that?" And you know, and in my head, obviously, it does nothing to me, because I don't define myself from the sport. So I really don't care what you say, even if I'm the worst or whatever. But at the other time, I always wonder for some of these people, it's so easy to be the person who's anonymous, shouting out at the people. And I know that most of these haters, let's say, want to, because we all do in a certain sense, like you felt restricted. The worst thing for a human is to feel caged in. If you put a human and they know they're in a prison, they know they're in a cage, they're going to try and get out. And, you know, and I think it's also another thing for society where a lot of people don't understand necessarily that they're in a prison, locked into their phones, or locked into their job. They don't understand that they're in a prison, so they can't get out.
The moment you sit in front of the TV, you are in a prison.
You're in.
Or like, that's why it's very important to choose your platform, to choose what you watch when.
Right.
And not to be available.
Yeah.
The key is not to be available to anyone.
Yeah.
It's this is the trick. When you become available, even this feeling when we have as a woman this tendency, when we get relaxed in a relationship, you make yourself available.
Over available.
Over available.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's a killer, even in a relationship.
Yeah.
But we have this tendency that by being available, we will gain something that otherwise we would not.
That's something, and as a man, we don't necessarily, and it's weird, because society plays its role, and obviously nature also plays some role, and that's our whole world is crashing in America with what that means and all the words and stuff like that. But it's so interesting because, and I know you have an understanding of Eastern philosophy and stuff like this, but the yin nature and the yang nature and guys' ability to just like zone in and focus on this. They don't care about this, that, and the other. They can live in filth as long as they're trying to charge ahead and get to the top of the lawyer thing. And there's this interesting stat that most women who enter the field of law, these lawyers, around the age of 35 and let's say around 40, they have a better understanding of realizing, because in America and in most places, you want to get to the top of the ladder, right? Men understand they want to get to the top of the ladder. That means more money. That means better selection of females, et cetera, et cetera. But women have a better reflective ability, generally speaking. And they stop. They realize at 30, 35, not just because of kids. One of these clinical psychologists talks about this. He says it's also because they realize this is not going to bring them happiness in the long term. And guys are too stupid, and they just keep plowing ahead, and they do it. And then we all know the cliche of the guy at 40 who stops, or 50, and just like, what did I do with my life? And they got to... They throw
burnouts, yes. And that's what Jordan Peterson says when they say, oh, but we don't have enough women in high positions. And then say, why would I want to be in these positions? Give me a good reason. Don't you think
Exactly.
they are smarter than that?
That's the thing. And that's the thing. And so moving on to where you're an entrepreneur of a certain sense, obviously, because and that term is, hard to define, right? But I define it also, I blend it, because an entrepreneur to me is someone who's using their abilities to kind of influence the world and possibly make money or, provide services for people. It's a broad term, So you talked a little about your trips and your stuff and everything that you could do in Switzerland. I'm really curious about Switzerland and the people. And how long did you live there, first off? Or did you live there? Or what's your relationship to...
I didn't live long there because I hated it.
That's what I'm curious about.
It was killing me.
What specifically, though? These people, or the rich life?
It was ultimately artificial. And this prototype role that I was expected to fit, or that most women there at this certain affluence lived, for me was horrifying.
But which is that? The trophy wife type of thing, or what?
I mean, all these it's a very chauvinistic male dominant society, because there are some women that in the banks and this, but they look like shit, the beautiful women don't really pursue the careers. They are like these trophy wives. They are well kept by their husbands. They are clad in Chanel. They can spend as much, but they cheat on them, and the woman suffers and ages badly, and she's operated, and she has lost the soul in the process. So you go and have lunches with these people, it's like being, for me, on a graveyard. There is no exchange, because they lost the spark. This is something, like, I think a human being, the biggest treasure you have is the spark within you, this childish desire that everything is still there for you. And if one thing defines me, it's that. If I consecrate one day of my life, every day of my life, and everything I do in terms of improving myself is always to accommodate more and better that
feeling,
kid, that spark, that desire, and that belief that life is still there waiting for me, still to be discovered, that I can do everything, I can, whatever, like my heart wants me to. And that is not easy to maintain, but is of a paramount importance. And I think that the only ideal society that will ever glimpse is the society that nurtures that awareness within a human being.
That's exactly it.
And that's extremely powerful. And I've been through many, many challenging, extremely difficult situations in my life, because I go through fire. I don't compromise. I have my beliefs and I have my values, and you can't buy me. You can not scare me. And I really, really can handle huge risks, but not with my mind, not with my knowledge. No, these are only, maybe sometimes useful allies. But I have this inner guidance that I know will get me out of the darkest place. Right. And I'm always nurturing that relationship. And of course, you can, this alliance can be a little bit shaken and everything, but I always try to do and to stay in touch with this, what here we have, Esther calls this inner GPS, that will navigate you through, because that's the only way out of fear in this three-dimensional world that has so many danger for a human being,
Yeah, and what's so fascinating about that is not the standard. What you're talking about is the same way, and my mom instilled what you're speaking about, that inner spark. She constantly, these type of books, the type of things that were on my wall and posters and things like that, were all geared towards that, using that as the way to find life. Push for this. You can do anything. Push for this. Don't worry about when things go bad. You come back, you center yourself. Everything comes from within and then without, Yes. And trying to convey that to people now, and it's getting better, definitely, because I've seen something, say, in the last, 20 years, let's say, it's becoming more mainstream to a certain degree. But still, to have a conversation with someone about, hey, your thoughts literally create your reality, and then trying to track that back and say, well, maybe you shouldn't say that this sucks every time, or maybe you shouldn't tell yourself that I can't do that, because that's literally what's causing you not to do it. If you can change and then stay persistent in that belief, you will start to do stuff that's, incredible. And we live in a society where I don't know what the percentage would be, but most people don't do what they really want to do at all. They know they want to, say, quit their job and go travel around the world, but they won't. They will continue at their insurance job that they don't really like, et cetera, et cetera. And so my question for you is actually one of manifestation and how you engendered this belief. How does one actually, to the best of their ability, start to manifest the world and the life that they did? Because if we go back,
you don't start. It's impossible to do otherwise. You always manifest.
You are manifesting whether you like it or not.
You do.
Well, consciously though, because that's a question for you. Said you wanted freedom, right? When you, as a kid, you were looking at, you didn't know exactly how it was going to play out, but you must be somewhat satisfied. That little girl must be somewhat satisfied
Absolutely.
with how she decided, boom, okay, I have some economic freedom. I've traveled a little bit, even though it wasn't exactly like you wanted, you pushed on.
No, it's basically way wilder and better than I wanted it. And it always is, because I always grew, because, but I'm loyal to, in a way, to keep one thing I would promise to her is happiness.
Right.
Happiness is the meaning of life. So what life does to us is tries really hard to let us give away that notion. That pursuit of life is happiness. So basically, it's even more basic than, live consciously. And because sometimes you think if you travel the world, you'll be happy, but maybe you will not.
Yeah, of course.
You understand?
You have to do it.
Like everyone asked me, where will you go with it? And I said, I don't get excited anymore. When you tell me about travel, what I think, I should fit all my clothes in a suitcase. I should be stuck on a long-haul flight. And I should get there and be bored because I don't have all my tools like at home.
Right.
And I really don't need to travel because I've been there, I've done then enough to know that I'm not missing on anything.
That's the thing. Yeah.
You understand? That was the best part about traveling.
Right.
Because basically there was nothing spectacular about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me then about, because this is always someone who has been able to be in those upper echelons of this rich society, whether it's in Switzerland. Have you been to Monaco?
Yes. I didn't live in Monaco.
Not lived there, but you've been there
course,
and experienced it, right? I mean,
also hate it, like it's too small for me. I get suffocated, choked.
Tell me about, if to the most that you can, we have a fascination now with the rich and the lives and the secret parties, let's say, or just how. Did you notice anything? How different are they than the average person? Is there some truth to the craziness of like an eyes wide shut party or secret society? Are they?
You have to know. I have this very strong inner integrity. So I was never engaged or attracted to drugs, orgies, these things, not from the moral point of view. I felt that they are not going to raise my vibration, you understand?
Fair enough.
And I know that the world, that when you want to be a great manifester, you can't really mess up with energies, if you have a knowledge of that.
Yeah.
If you you are in a sexual intercourse in a person, then all the people they ever had sexual intercourse with are mixing with your energies, and you have really to consider is it worth going there, It's not so... Early on, I also been in the mysticism, Kabbalah, and these things, so I have a very, big awareness of... I've been in with Opus Dei and everything. So I have this... I was a searcher, so some things intuitively were not for me, I never needed a quick way out, get drunk, get high and things like that. I want to be high on life, I want to be a perfect manifester, to not to need to fool my mind, my body, things like that. I go for the real thing. I'm difficult to satisfy. You can't give me a candy and keep me happy. I want things today that will stay,
Yeah.
like that will improve my life and that will not go evaporate.
Right. Yeah, deep.
So-
Some sort of deep understanding and that deep
So
push.
actually, what I was even not to go at the level of like these extreme parties or whatever, but
Sure.
what I saw, these women who accept to be mistreated by their husband in this sense that he's not like he can allow himself mistresses because he keeps you well, you are
Right.
well kept.
Right.
That's for me humiliating, you know. This kind of and I remember when I divorced my husband in Switzerland, and I came to a lawyer to his office, and the first, like, I wanted to engage this lawyer in an issue that I had, and he dared to give me a comment like, but we'll marry you fast.
We'll marry you fast. Like we'll get
he
you.
knew I was just divorced and I came, you know,
okay.
and it was like I came to present him the case and wanted to engage him, and he dared to say, oh, like, but you don't need what do you very be like marry you fast. You understand? You are such a premium woman. We will
we'll get you taken care of. Yeah.
Yeah, and I say, what are you talking about? You understand?
Yeah.
But this is such a mindset. It was not the only situation when I encountered that. So I think Switzerland is one of the worst places I've been. It's more primitive than, definitely way more primitive than Croatia. And you know what is absurd? Switzerland always this, you feel it's an advanced country. Do you know there was a canton in Switzerland that gave right women to vote only in 1974?
74.
So it's scary, you know?
Right.
You think it's a very progressive country, but it's big bullshit.
Yeah.
And also what they do with these rich people all over the world, they, you know, so happy to keep any money in their safe, and then when they want to confiscate the wealth, then they find all the issues why that money that you already brought was not good. But before you open the safe, I'm not in my case, but I know like people from Syria and this, like they happily put their wealth into the safe, but later they find
a problem.
But your money might be from here and there, and they, you know,
they confiscate
crazy.
it. Yeah.
So I think this Switzerland is big thumbs down, you know.
Because I mean, just as an outsider, I mean, it's already too interesting because we don't. Everything you hear about it is all from, you know, some sort of crazy either documentary or stuff like this, and you only see that. So it's interesting to talk to somebody who was there. But you mentioned, because I also too, and not just for sport, but I was never interested. My parents weren't big drinkers at all. I don't think I've ever even seen my parents drunk. But you know, and drugs, they were not big. Mainly, obviously, because I wanted to be a professional footballer and still play to the age. I'm 36 and I'm still playing, right? And whenever people see me, they don't think that I'm 36, right? So that was huge for me. But in your search, and like you said, have you ever tried anything like psychedelic mushrooms? And did
Ayahuasca.
Oh, you tried ayahuasca? Yes. So you got to tell me, because everybody tries ayahuasca now. That's the thing. I don't really feel it. But
Cambo also from the frog, you know, when they burn.
But that's DMT, no? The ayahuasca.
It's called in Croatian. When they like take this poison from a frog and they inject
pick it on you, right? Yes, like that. Okay.
That, but that's not a big.
I see.
Ayahuasca was a very strong experience.
Did you try it in Peru or in somebody place else, or did you? No? Or you can't say. You can't say. You can't say. Okay, that's fine. You don't say. Don't say. Yeah, that's fine. But the experience is one that is transformative for most people. Was it for you something like this, or was the hype too much hype?
It was very tiring, extremely body demanding, extremely demanding for my body, extremely tiring, and because I mean I really did. I took 3 doses. I mean 2 nights, and the second night 3 doses, and I was really very clean, very prepared. You know, I fasted just on water a week before, and so I had a very strong experience, but. After did I really feel a big change? I wouldn't say
no.
So no. Maybe, you know, it's difficult. Maybe what it did to me, it did open you more to this vortex from above. okay, no, maybe I...
The connection, essentially, it opened up that connection.
I started very much having like connection with my past lives very clearly. I mean, I had that from that moment on. Like even now, in a way that you see when now I realize it's connected with that experience because I was not sure.
Yeah.
Like I had a completely different connection to higher dimensions that became part of my everyday existence. But what I lacked was what ayahuasca didn't give me and it couldn't give me, and I needed to do shamanistic work in reconnecting with the earth. Because what happened to me, like I became this big open channel on the upper dimensions. It was using a lot of my energy because the circuit was not closed.
I see.
I was disconnected from my first chakra. I was not drawing the energy from the earth. I created like a small circle that was going the spheres above and the second chakra.
I see.
Like this part of my body functioned as its on its own. I don't know when this disconnection happened, and ayahuasca was not there to that, and that was kind of work that I needed to do more, and that's why also for a while I couldn't implement all the benefit I had for this connection because the balance was not. I needed this balance, and that is the work really of a shaman, and it was fire walking and things like that gave me that grounding.
So then how much, because I'm a lifelong meditator, and I guess I shouldn't say lifelong now, right? But more or less it stuck somewhere in my early 20s. And all of the experiences one can have and the benefits and all that stuff, it's becoming this whole new thing out there and stuff. So how much and I don't know if you have your own meditative practice, because meditation for me, what it led to was meditation first, where at first my mom would say, you should meditate with me. And, a 16-year-old kid, I'm like, what in God's name, Mom, would I meditate for? You sit there in front of your bed. I'm going to go, whatever, play soccer, do whatever. And then finally you do it, right? And everybody knows that you don't get a benefit from meditating just one day or for 20 minutes one day. The real benefits start to kick in when you can maintain it over a long period of time and you change your entire inner world. You gain some peace, and that gives you a new perspective on life, and then you can think and see in ways that you wouldn't. And that sort of stuff led to lucid dreaming. I had spontaneous out-of-body experiences that I didn't know what this was, and I was having them since I was 16. I stumbled upon a book later and I said, oh, this is what's happening to me, and stuff like that. So as far as your spiritual practice, do you have anything that you actually do to maintain yourself daily? I mean, you mentioned yoga. I do yoga as well, also for sport, but it's also spiritual. Breath work, we've had on guys like James Nestor that talk about the importance of breath. What do you do specifically to maintain yourself?
Like Osho says, with time, you don't really sit and meditate for 30 minutes because you are always in meditation. Like I can talk now and even like yell at you, whatever, but I'm centered. And I will know in my body what to do, what not to do. I don't act from my mind. At all. That doesn't matter where I am or what I do. It becomes like your... like we humans walk on two legs. It's like you become centered within you automatically. What I needed more was more breath practicing more than because meditation for me is like became now like a natural tendency. My mind is always searching for that state. What I needed more was energetic boosts, not calming my mind. Energizing it more, at a deeper level, like getting in a trance state with your breath. More than just calming your mind,
Yeah, and that's such a huge difference between the personalities, because you generally, I can tell, just in the sense that you've been sitting here, I don't think you sat still like me for a single second. That's your natural nature, whereas me...
it was not, because... I'm changing it. It's not. There is nothing like our nature. It's only our current tendency that we can interfere with if we want to change it or not. So for me, because my energy was not fluctuating properly, I was needing more time to be calm and centered. What I now have changed to energize, to be able more to draw down everything that I'm getting from above. I'm like doing this morning exercise of like pumping myself with oxygen. That's why I'm so full of energy now. If I would not do these exercises consciously, mine would be very to stay still, take it easy, and be very inwards. A lot of energy, but drawn inwards. But because I had to change my energy more outside. I'm started doing this energy pumping in the mornings, and that's why I'm now
like this full of energy.
Electrified because of that, you know.
So a lot of the people that are going to be listening to this, they're going to take a lot of this in. And the podcast is, generally speaking, we have people on like you that have done and are doing incredibly interesting things in their lives, with the idea behind that we can learn something from your journey and from you and all this stuff. So I'm curious because you have boys. And majority of the people here from our podcast are all mainly men, and not just men, but also young guys who are dealing with a whole lot of anxiety with trying to whether perform on the field or do well in school, or just the general anxiety that has to go on now with our current society, you know, that seems to be this buzzword. How then did you instill into your boys an idea of confidence, yet still being this sort of masculinity, this sort of idea of, you know, and pushing for themselves? Do you have some sort of thing that you told them, that you pushed them towards to help them, you know?
First of all, I was a mother that was very present, because love is the key always. We have to... Us who didn't have love, we become life searchers because we look for filling up the hole. My children had this gift of having this like mom that was crazy about them the moment I was conceived. Like for me, I was the sexiest, the most beautiful person when I was pregnant, you know, going to the hospital with high heels and celebrating this event and enjoying every moment of that and breastfeeding them and do everything with them, with the sports and everything. But I realized, because basically I raised my kids on my own. I didn't want them to be this mother, like a son of a mother with 30, 40 years old, like a man. I didn't want them to be a man that I would never like to be with. Right. You understand? Yeah. I didn't want to do that to my kids because I love them too much. And then, because I was always so close to them and in tune with them, I felt in their teenage years this need in them to impose their masculinity. And I needed to step back to give them the space. Give them the space. He wants a tattoo. For me, I don't love tattoos. Like I told you, I it's not something that is part of my aesthetics, everything. But in that, when they wanted, it was one of the first things before they were even 18, they needed my permission. And I blessed it, because I realized, you know, in the primitive societies, that we call primitive societies, but they are more in tune with the human psychic, human nature, and human needs. There were these initiation rites. When the boys would take them to the woods, they would have to go through something, whatever, extreme experience, going through pain to prove their manhood, you know. Even in communism, we had army. We, in religion, there are some rituals, but they are all deprived of real luminosity, of the real transition that happens in the human psyche that needs to be marked. You know, there is something going on when you are becoming from a boy into a man that the modern society has lost. And that's why we don't have men. We have boys who are supposed to face the challenges as a man. But they are not equipped to do so because there was no psychological transition. Another thing that you have to do when you love someone is to let them make their mistakes. Because if you have raised them, you know, it's not that they were raised in a gang and without control. If you have lived with those kids day and night, 12, 13 years. What, you are scared then to let them go? I've never in my life spent one night waiting for my kid, worrying, when is he coming home? Is he driving crazy or not? Because you have had so much time, you know, when the two plants grow together, it's impossible to have two different plants. The
The
peer
roots
will be
are,
next to
yes,
the
they're connected.
green.
And
So how, if you are really present there with your mind, with your heart, with these kids, they can't go stray far from who you are.
Right. Wow.
So the biggest thing I could ever do for my kids then and now is to taking care of myself in a meaningful way, in the level of everything that I do with my energy. I'm, as a mother, I'm a pillar of all these kids and when they will have their kids. So this is this paramount role of a woman that exists maybe in an African tribe, but not in a Western society. That's why we are screwed. We have depression and neurosis and anxieties. These are non-existent diseases for a human being.
Of course, yeah.
Maybe it's healthy to run when there is a lion going after you, but once when he is gone, you stop running and you relax and you are happy.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't fight ghosts all the time because it's a never-ending.
Yeah. And that's the thing, because the phrase you're referring to is a rite of passage. That's
exactly.
We don't have that. We do not have it. And so now you're stuck with. And I asked this. We had Brett Weinstein on, who is an evolutionary biologist, and his wife Heather Hain. They're both evolutionary biologists. And I literally just asked them, why do we have so many man children in society today? Because it feels like there's more, or it feels like that's an issue. And what I also said was that I didn't think that on the female side that it was happening as much. And they said it is definitely still happening on the women's side as well. That necessarily, and I cannot remember exactly what their reasonings for were. That we'll link to that podcast down below. But what I found is you have to artificially create that. All the push, and when you talk about searching for your inner soul and your inner, in your inner character and that spark, and keeping that spark alive, that's a form of keeping your entire spark alive. You have to do that because it's not forced upon you. It was forced upon you. When you're 16 back in the day, they send you out to the mountain, you go fight, bring home the lion, you're a man now. and that's how it is. Anyway, I want to switch real quick too, because you touched on some paranormal experiences and stuff like that. And like, as I mentioned, I had out of body experiences, and in meditation, in the sitting practice of meditation, some weird things can happen that are unexplainable by our today's society. And you're mentioning past lives and stuff like that. What's your relationship to some of those things that have happened? Do you have any experiences that you cannot explain that have shaped you as a person now?
Yeah, we are all programmed, when we are all programmed, but the question is that we become attached to these programs. There is no, we can't really see clearly. Like I have several movies going that went on in me, like strongly, like I was Indian, like warrior, how you call this, Poglavitsa. Chief leader,
okay.
So
you have this feeling, or you have this dream, or you had this. How does it feel to you? Like, what gives you that notion that
I know that, and like energy readers will
tell you that.
It, but I have many that. I have different programs in me, and they form what we call my character, my personality. Because that's part of I don't know if there is an HBO Go, there is a series where that is called Westworld.
Yeah, I know it, but I haven't seen it. But.
So this is exactly how we are programmed. Like they program these humanoid robots, and they give them certain characteristics. You have that much empathy, that much perception, that much that forms you. And then you remember some parts you remember that forms us, So I had this warrior within me, and the way I lived my life was determined a lot about that. Like the warrior that had strength, initiative, was fearless, was protecting his tribe to the extreme, but was also like a very male and dominant, which was killing my partners. And it was also that I was very connected to the pain That because I guess we were all annihilated at some point with many Americans came and so. So I had a lot of pain that I was holding on to and didn't let go because I cannot revenge them if I lose touch with that pain. But that pain keeps me.
It drives you.
It drives me.
I see.
Drives my strength. So that's where we get, there are some attributes that in society we praise. Oh, he's courageous or this and that. But this is all also bullshit because these are often compensation for some other things. So because I was so much holding on to my pain and the revenge, I needed to have the courage to fulfill, to be still keeping this movie going on. But this is just a fucking movie. The only good thing is that you eventually, if you can, bring to life these roles that you are playing, I mean, playing, it's not like so absurd, like there are other characters that are part of these stories.
Of course.
But you have to understand that this is, somebody has programmed me with these programs. It is not, you understand, it's just...
You're not a blank slate in that sense.
Exactly. Right. It's a video game in which I'm programmed to to have, even if I didn't, when we don't remember, people who don't remember consciously their past lives, what is past life? It is this program they have. The program is still running there.
Sure.
Okay, but they don't see it in images like I see, and so you have to first of all realize that you are programmed and that you can rewrite the program. Right. And in order to rewrite a new program, you have to be able to let go of the old programs, because also sometimes it's very cool to be identified with a chieftain, or, there are some things that basically you think, but it gives me, some superiority over others, so we are always tricked into some of these things. But happiness is not in this. We will never find it in these places. Where we find happiness is this emptiness. Because when we are emptied from all this programming, then we are part of the universe. And we have just let the energy flow through us. Programs forms the energy within us. Shape gives it a shape within us. What we want is to be completely having a blank canvas.
Yes.
To be given a blank canvas every day. That's what you want. That you can do with it whatever you want. But for as long as you're attached to the programs, you will have 20 colors on your palette, but for some reason, you will be using only 3.
Yeah.
And even you will come to convince yourself that the painting that came out with the 3 is quite a beautiful one, and you are not even sure why you should be using all the other. You understand? So it's like being liberated from all of that. And I think every religion in a way shows its way to this liberation. Because what is the meaning of resurrection? That it's going beyond 3 dimensions. You know? And when you connect with these higher dimensions, then everything becomes like, for me, it's not, is there an UFO? It's more like, okay, if I really get bored here, I'll call them to pick me up. You understand what I mean? And how different it is from being stuck with my like this leader, chieftain. Yes. You understand what is this consciousness expansion that I've been working on, from being stuck into something to be like absolutely open.
And that's one of the hardest things for people, though, is to let go. Number one is very hard. Like we said, if you're identified even with who you are, even if you don't know your past lives, like you said, something is running you. Whether that's TV, society, you heard this, and your parents told you, you're this, you could never be a whatever astronaut because you're not that type of person. You're this. And so the code that's running in your head is very hard for people.
But you have to understand that the mother we have is the result of the program we were already programmed at the conception with. It's not a coincidence.
Which is a hard thing for people to fathom, though. This is a hard thing because that's another step that most people aren't going to be willing to take. That they had any sort of, because what the current materialistic viewpoint is, I'm carbon-based life. My consciousness is seated in my brain. It is not anything outside. When I die, I'm finished. And that's it. That's the current trope. What it hasn't been the current trope for thousands of years, and we have plenty of anecdotal evidence to say that there is something else going on. What that is specifically, exactly, we can't necessarily be entirely sure. But most of the experiences that I've had that are otherworldly and there's this certain sense of knowing that I wish I could pass on to someone who has never. And it comes from meditation. It comes from dreams. It comes from these other things. You know, I've had a lot of precognitive dreams, you know, that are unexplainable. And so to give someone an understanding of what you're saying, there's plenty of people out there that are just going to be like,
but do you care?
No, it's not that I don't care.
I don't at all.
But what
because
I care,
there is the comparative advantage between the quality of their life and my life is exactly in that gap.
Yeah, but the thing is that what I find most interesting is that I would love to give them a chance to have an understanding of that knowing. They can only do it for themselves, right? And so
many people resonate. Ordinary people resonate. You wouldn't believe. People at the cash desk, when I walk the dog,
Sure.
they get me so much. That
They understand.
that I'm shocked.
Yeah.
Like I'm not shocked that how much many people don't get. I'm shocked how many people
do
get.
Yeah, because I think it speaks to us. It speaks to us as an internal. Everyone is the same. We're all still human. We're all still conscious. You know, and that consciousness has.
Just sometimes those that don't get may be louder or maybe meaner.
Yeah.
And easier. They hate more, and that's why you hear their voice more.
Yeah.
But once I became this public person, and the amount of love and the feedback that I get from ordinary people, or when I have a birthday, the way it's never as simple, oh, you're amazing, happy birthday. Like the depth
they tell you,
they tell me
that you touched them and reached them.
That I touched them.
Yes.
Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Let me go to, so tomorrow I mentioned that we have Stephen Greer on, who is, do you know Dr. Stephen Greer? Have you run into him? You haven't run into Dr. Stephen Greer. So Dr. Stephen Greer is basically America's truth seeker for UFOs and UFO disclosure within the government. So he is the guy, maybe it's 20 years ago, maybe a little more than 25 years ago, he got together all these people in the military that, you know, what he was trying to do was take respectable people from all walks of society within the government that would go on record, congressional hearing, and state, I worked on a UFO, I worked on an anti-gravitic plane, I saw this, I worked for NASA, and NASA did this. He got all these people together, made a disclosure, it's called disclosure, and they went and said that they would testify in front of Congress, all these military people. So he did that then, and he thought this was going to be like the big thing, and everybody will then believe, and nothing happened, right? And so they did it again. So that was in 2001, actually. I think they did it again. And so now he's on this journey of basically, and obviously everything is very linked. So but
NASA has been involved with this, and they know that there is civilization on the moon and the Mars, and they have proofs of that. But that's not the point. The point is that the general public is not ready for this.
You don't think so?
They are becoming to be ready, but that was the only person. That was the only reason why they kept this away. They don't have another agenda to do that.
Sure.
It's just don't create chaos. They can't, people are so stupid with their minds that you want them to what? You tell them there is a civilization on the moon, they will freak out.
Do you think so? I don't know. I don't know if people will freak out.
Not you are having this podcast, but most people, when there is something out of their control, don't you understand that the whole our society, we are giving people the false idea that we can give them guarantee in everything. You understand? You want a phone? Insure your screen in case it falls. Like health, you need extra. You come to the post office every time she wants me, do I need a health insurance or an extra health insurance?
Right.
You understand why people freaked out in the corona? You know why? Because they thought that the society doesn't control the situation.
I see. Sure.
They can't deal with this idea. Like adult people have a mother in the government. They're not adult, independent, free thinkers.
Yeah.
They just
Government is mom.
substitute their, they have their boss and they have their president, and there's this substitute,
Sure.
a person who runs their life and gives them sense of security and stability. They cannot fathom these huge ideas. They think that how stupid you have to be to think that there is only life on Earth. How unscientific is this, that there is only life on Earth? This is so ultimately stupid that it's ridiculous. Everything that is mainstream science now, from any sound scientist, has been gone, abolished, and irrelevant 50 years ago. What your kid will learn today at school. So this is we have our conscious mind in the three-dimensional world is really slow. It's the pace of the three. But that's why we came for this experience, when you have an UFO, you think it travels. No. It appears, manifests, and disappears. It doesn't travel with the speed of light and these bullshit things. It's instant, because if you see now on my bed, there are 10 books. It's all about this Ingo Swann and
I know Ingo Swann.
Everything, the things that happen in the Bermuda Triangle that are inexplicable and everything. And basically, everyone now, I think majority of the people now takes it as a blunt fact. There is in the state, there is a place where you can come and watch them and see them. But there is, my problem actually is, I don't have this problem, but for me personally, for example, I'm more connected to the extraterrestrials than to the humans.
You feel like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So actually I feel, sometimes I feel, okay, I did agree to come here,
And you are here now. Yeah.
And
you are
now,
human. Yeah.
But if you are having more fun,
let me know. I'll come hang out. Yeah.
So I think, we are just, world is much better and more fun than we make it to be.
Yeah. And I mean, and the conclusion with a lot of that was essentially that there's a connection between time and consciousness, and our viewpoint on time here is a bit skewed, right? We only understand linear time here. It's 1 o'clock.
That's how they programmed us.
I see. So you feel as if that. So let's go back then, because you've got definitely. I want to understand this world viewpoint. What is your view essentially then on mankind as, do you believe in panspermia? Panspermia is that a comet hit or that Earth was seeded. Do you feel that we are we the extraterrestrials? That's also a common thing, that we came from somewhere else. We just forgot. There's giant gaps in our history. But
I don't know the technicality of it.
Sure.
But we are programmed by the beings who have higher intelligence than us,
who aren't God, who aren't what we would consider God, or are we mistakenly feeling as if
we mistakenly name them as
God,
as gods, because they even Egyptians knew there was someone there, and they have some powers that we don't have. What means that there are some parts of our coding that are locked. And there is all this karma story and past lives. It's part of their programming.
I see.
And that's also sometimes, definitely they communicate with some of us, and they communicate with some of us more, and they have a purpose. Have some. This civilization serves them.
Yes, I see.
Serves them.
I see.
It's like you when you play your video game.
Sure.
We are their video game.
Yeah.
So they have a certain interest into seeing how we develop and what we do, and they program this, and then they live like that, and they program that, and they live that. But they keep interfering. It's not they left and watch. They have benefit from that, but they are definitely dominant. They are. They are at a higher level of consciousness. They live in the multidimensional universe. We live in a limited. We are aware of the limited, but.
Is the goal then for us to achieve that same? I mean, with all these things that you said, man is made in the image and likeness of God is what the big.
We can activate the parts of our DNA
to have an understanding like them.
And to be more connected with them, because they are not someone who, we are like brothers and sisters.
Sure,
it's
okay.
not that they want to, they could have destroyed us any second.
Sure, if they
don't
can
want
create
that.
us.
But it's also, there is a hierarchy. So when we came to the moon and wanted to mess up with them, they didn't kill the astronauts and whatever. They don't need to do that, but they send a clear message to stay away. This is not some place you come to play.
Yeah, okay.
For your kid, you don't want
they
them
manage
to play.
them. Yeah.
They manage us, okay? They have to do our purpose. But in all of us who have this spark for different and for more, we are made to reveal that spark and to be more connected with them. That's our next step of the evolution, Basically, when you see, it's not so much Congress, it's that we have to, we all passed initiation process before we were able to achieve better programming, if you know what I mean. Imagine if you give a power to an ordinary person who is full of bad thoughts. And this, you can't
not
do
ready
that.
for it.
So you have believe some of us who are more connected with them and have a bigger purpose here.
Went through a process then.
We had to go through a certain process to purify ourselves so that they know who is their soldier. You don't give the most lethal weapon to someone who will kill innocent people with that. It's very powerful. It can be very dangerous when it's in the wrong hands. That's why they program people to be limited.
Sure.
Because it's part of this, But basically, that's we are here to work with them. And the more we are closer to our final programming, the more we'll be at peace, and the more we'll be into the flow, because then we will be in the right place and the right time. We had to feel a certain discomfort to be pushed and search to find that connection. And what's also beautiful about it, if you read about 𝗲𝗟𝗡 and the way he connects and he does this remote viewing, is that it's the return to the heart, because the feeling of telepathy and remote viewing is to which sense it's connected the most, with the feeling function.
With the heart.
Not with the thinking, not with anything analytical. It's when you are really like a kid in your heart, that's the path to this higher dimension.
So the connection between that.
Connection. And that's what's the Christ message, because he's an extraterrestrial. It's the gospel of love, because we reconnect with the brothers and sisters to the purity of the heart.
And when you say that, because obviously that is something that's been echoed, not just, let's say, 𝗲𝗟𝗡, but that's across Hinduism. There's some Tibetan texts, and it's everywhere, right? That this connection is a heart-based connection, and society is now starting to see, look at the heart has a magnetic resonance, and the heart can affect people. And we're getting to these maybe it's not just our brain, all of a sudden our stomachs are chi and stuff, and all that stuff is it's very Eastern, and now you're seeing this blend, and it's really curious, because like you said, 50 years ago, so much of the science and stuff is just all trash now. It's just trash.
Exactly.
And it will be the same in another 50 years. Exactly. 100 years from now, we'll look at some of the ways we treat and do medicine, and we'll all laugh like we did. And so it's really interesting. But I just want to touch on one quick thing. 𝗲𝗟𝗡, we had on Dr. Dean Radin, which I'm not sure if you know who he is or not. Dean was involved in those studies with 𝗲𝗟𝗡, Russell Targ, the remote viewing guys. He was with them. So we had him on already. But you mentioned that they programmed us, and you're using they for possibly a group, entities, stuff that have a higher dimension than us. So do you give any credence to the forms of control? Because like I said, we're going to have Dr. Stephen Greer on here soon, and he's big on the powers that be, humans, not the Illuminati, but some sort of government, that there is some sort of protection here, that they are the ones that are keeping humans from knowing about their truth on the inside, or who they really are, or that you're more than a body, and so do you feel as if there is no real control? Do you feel that that's coming from outside, or do you feel that there is a protection of people here on Earth?
Our human society is built around those who are more aware than the others.
Okay.
Those who are more aware of their powers and how the things work control the others. But that's the antagonism of this world.
Sure.
It's when you remove that, then you don't need to stay in the earth. Once we get tired of that, you will not come back in this, decide to come back in this three-dimensional body. You will live in other in the
experience dimension,
experiences. So, but nobody can control an awakened individual. You can control only people who are unaware.
Yeah.
You cannot be controlled once you are aware. So
right.
if you try to install fear in the people with this, of Illuminati, of that, with this, what is Illuminati? Is a person who is more into light than into the darkness. You know, what will Illuminati do with me? You know, nothing. You know,
right.
But of course there is. The human society is organized in groups. Everything that lives on the earth, like animals, everything is organized because these organizations give higher chances of survival. But that is also when you are low in your consciousness, because I don't need this gang protection, because I have a direct connection. You throw me any place in the world, do you think I will feel fear or loss? No, I just need to be no noise, connect, and I will know, walk left, walk right, eat this, don't eat that. I'm always connected, you know?
Right. It's intuitive. That's intuition, though. A lot of people have a hard time with that. I don't know if I want to say a lot of people. Trusting your intuition is also something some people don't know. Is that my intuition or is that fear? You have to understand.
I wouldn't call it intuition. Intuition is also part of conditioning. We feel this, but you will feel something that is in tune with your program. You know, it's not a noble thing.
So there's a separation.
It's not a noble thing. Like there are 4 functions, how we perceive world, that's Jung defined that, and it's extremely for me accurate. So each human being can primarily function through thinking or intuition. It's either one or the other.
I see.
One is superior, another inferior, and then there are 2 more, either through senses or through feeling.
Okay.
So this is like a cross.
Right.
Most of us are always in this balance. It means either you are dominantly thinking, inferior in intuition, and either you are dominantly feeling and inferior in senses.
Okay.
What is the point is to balance it all. You have to be equal in perceiving the world with all 4 of them. This gives you balance. But intuition in itself is nothing more noble than the thinking. It's like a woman who is programmed to be cheated on will always have an intuition that her husband cheats on her.
Sure.
And he will cheat, and the other one who is more thinking, will hire a detective and prove that he is cheating. So this is basically not solving anything. The point is to be clear of all this program.
I see. Completely
Free of the program. And the connection that she's talking GPS, it is not the intuition. It's called inner guidance. Intuition is not inner guidance.
So you find a separation between intuition and inner guidance.
Exactly.
And inner guidance is coming from where then?
Inner guidance is coming from a pure place. Like you have to be centered.
I see.
Now you cannot be in a club dancing and have inner guidance, even though you can have intuition.
Sure. Okay.
Because you understand, like you, or maybe even as we say with time, even when you meditate regularly, even in a club, in a noise, you know how to be centered.
Right.
But this center place, the information that comes from this center place of inner guidance is something that you have to cultivate, this connection, and you have to be purified. It means no drugs, no alcohol,
sex
with a solid partner, and all this nurture the connection.
Sure.
Also some regular rituals that purify your aura, your body in this.
No distortion.
No distortion.
Right.
People can be very intuitive who are not that purified and clean.
I see. That's new. I've not actually even seen that. I generally would go with intuition as that connection that keeps you closest to God. But I guess I could see conditioning. Come put on to you, and then you start to think, that's the way it should be. I can possibly see that. I can see that. I can see you being conditioned to think one thing and then start to feel like, this is the right way. That'll lead me the right way. And that's your intuition, but it's because of the place, of your possible environment. I can see that.
That was a very tricky also thing for me, because many things I would do this intuitively, but in the end I realized it was programming as well.
Right.
So our goal is to be clean of the programming. The more that's why you want lucid dreams, because when you get things that you get in lucid dreams are not distorted with programming.
Right.
That's why we want to go in places like this, to get pure clarity. And also how we can integrate these conditions into our everyday conscious living, you know? That's what we aim for.
You have so much stuff also out and about. We didn't even touch on, I have notes here on manifesting money. I have notes on fashion. I have plenty of stuff that I wanted to get into. We'll have to do some other time. We will do. But where should I send people? To your Instagram, of course. Actually, I'm going to send people to your Instagram. You also post some books and stuff like that. You've posted like at least 3 books that I have already. So I was like, this is perfect. We need to, we need to have this. So we will link to everything down below, of course. And next time we'll have to speak a little Italian and talk some more about this. I'm sure we're going to get quite a reaction from everybody. So we'll have you back on. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. All right.